Hello friends, in this episode we're tackling a job that's a bit more complicated than usual. We'll be replacing the EGR valve and cooler assembly on a Volkswagen Scirocco equipped with a 2.0 liter CFFB 140 horsepower diesel engine. Obviously, this procedure is identical for all Volkswagen Audi Group models using this engine. It's a time-consuming job that requires patience, so I will only cover the key steps without going into too much detail. Enough with the intro, let's get started. First, you'll have to remove this metal shield around the drive shaft boot to get a clear view of the area around the assembly. You can see the EGR assembly right behind the drive shaft. This cable with the electric plug from the oil pan sensor needs to be moved aside so it doesn't get accidentally damaged. Of course, you'll have to also disconnect the electrical connector from the EGR. Then we remove the bolts from this metal gas pipe. Since there wasn't enough space, we decided to remove the drive shaft. To do that, of course, you need to remove the front right wheel. Then you'll need to remove the wheel well liner, which is held in place by multiple Torx head screws. The drive shaft bolt was really tight, so we used a breaker bar to loosen it manually. Then we followed up with an impact wrench. For the inner CV joint bolts, we used the impact wrench with a universal joint adapter. You could also use two long extensions if the bolts aren't too tight. Next, we had to remove the 3 bolts from the ball joint on the control arm. Now you can lower the control arm and take out the drive shaft. With the drive shaft out, we had much better access to the pipe bolts and hose clamps. We were able to remove the 2 bolts from the other metal pipe as well. We then removed the coolant hose clamp. Place a container underneath and disconnect it from the EGR assembly. You'll only lose a small amount of coolant. You will also need to disconnect this thin vacuum hose. Next, we remove the upper nuts from the metal pipe on the right, but one of the nuts is behind the DPF. To get more room, you can remove these nuts from the DPF bracket. To move the DPF out of the way, go above and loosen this clamp from the turbocharger. There's also another bolt right here that secures the DPF. As I said, I then removed the upper nuts from the right-hand pipe. As you can see, we successfully removed the right-hand exhaust gas pipe. Now we will tackle the left one. To reach the upper bolts of the left-hand gas pipe, go up and clear the space behind the engine, where the intake tubing and oil separator hose are located. You only need to remove one T30 bolt and rotate the tubing. It's best to have someone guide you from under the car to locate the bolts. Use a magnetic socket adapter so you don't lose them. Don't forget to order 4 new metal gaskets for the gas pipes, otherwise you'll have oil leaks. We still have to remove another coolant hose on the right side, and then we can start removing the bolts holding the EGR assembly. The 2 lower bolts are visible. We can use the new part to figure out the location of the other 2 bolts. As you can see, the upper ones are in line with the lower ones, which means the upper right bolt is located directly behind the DPF. We still needed more space, so we loosened the bolts on the exhaust pipe bracket. Using a crowbar, we managed to move the DPF enough to access the upper right bolt. You can use a socket to hold the DPF aside. It took some work, but we managed to take out this tiny bolt. To be able to remove the whole assembly, we also had to disconnect the turbo, oil feed and return lines. Both are secured at the bottom with banjo bolts. The upper thick line is attached to the turbo with 2 bolts and also needs a new metal gasket. Once that's done, you'll have enough space to remove the EGR assembly. And that's it guys, reassembly steps are of course in reverse order. If this video was helpful, don't forget to support our channel with a like, comment or subscribe. It's completely free. See you next time.